Hey everybody, welcome back to Grain Free Homestead. I am Stephanie. Today is a big day for us. It is D-Day for our chickens. It is processing day. They are 10.5 weeks. They're Cornish cross. So I'm going to show you our setup that we have. We're getting ready to start. We're waiting on some ice to get here, and then we're going to start our process here. But I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to show you guys how we set everything up. Okay, so we kind of made a little circle here, mostly because we have electric right here. So we needed electric for the plucker, so everything else had to kind of revolve around that. So we have our plucker here that a friend of ours so graciously has let us use, and we have it set up here. We have a tote for feathers, this one to catch feathers and drain it. We have our pop-up tent here, and we have one butchering table in here right now. Hang on, we got these chairs. It's been raining all week, so we're trying to dry them in the sun. So we have our pop-up tent here. We've got one of our butchering tables. I'm still waiting on one to get here. My mother-in-law is coming. So we've got some buckets here. She wants to keep gizzards. My husband wants to keep livers. And then all the rest of the parts are going to go in here. Except I do need one more bucket. I want to keep the necks and backs for chicken stock. So we have gloves, a couple fillet knives. There's some more coming. I'm keeping soap so we can wash our hands regularly, bleach water, and paper towels. So I definitely recommend having extra buckets. So the chickens are here. We want them pretty close. We don't want them, they don't have to walk forever and have them panic while we're carrying them to the kill cone. So here they are. They're just chilling this morning. They haven't had food since about 9 o'clock yesterday morning, so it's been 24 hours. Right here is the dispatch station that my husband made out of just some scrap wood we had, an old traffic cone, and two buckets that we had under the deck. And then this is, of course, to catch the blood. So the chickens will go from their tractor to the dispatch station, and then from there they're going to go into the scalder, which we are currently trying to get up to temperature. And we're waiting on the ice, but we'll need an ice bucket to dip them into ice. And they'll come across here into the plucker, and from the plucker they're gonna go to our tables we have set up here. We're waiting on one more table right here. I'm just trying to get this filmed so that once they get here, we can get to rocking and rolling on getting these chickens done. So that's just the beginning of our morning. I wanted to give you a quick rundown before we get started. We're gonna try and get some footage while we're doing it, and hopefully walk through the process of at least one whole chicken from start to end to give you guys an idea of what all does this entail, you know. And when we're done, we'll let you know how many chickens we did and how long it took to do those chickens. But we've planned the whole day. We have it set aside as far as setup, processing the chickens, and then clean up too. ice water. Naked bird. Over here we have the processing table with the fillet knives. That's where we cut everything up. There's a bucket for the feet and the innards. We have a rinse station over here where we rinse them when they're all done. And we have gizzards on ice, necks on ice, and the livers. And then they go in the cooler on ice after that. And that is the whole rotation of our birds. So it's taken about, how long you think it's taken, guys? 10 minutes per bird?
Yeah.
From start to finish. And we're getting faster too the more that we do. So altogether we have 53 birds that we're doing, and we've been doing this for about an hour or so now.
Right. This one's done.
Trying to solve thing, if you just make one swipe, and then it takes you really easy.
This here is the rinse table. This is the process table. We work our way down. We rinse them off really good. And we've got them in the cooler. Okay guys, so you all got a look at our process that we did for butchering our Cornish cross. So we put together a little list of the pros and cons of the whole process. This was our first time raising chickens. We have egg layers, but this is our first experience with meat chickens. We did do the class at the Stivers, so that kind of prepared us for the butchering process and all of that. But this was our first time going through it with our own chickens. So we started out with 31 chicks. We bought 30, and of course they sent an extra. And lo and behold, one of them was sickly when we babied it for a couple weeks, wasn't it? And we tried really hard, but there was something wrong with that chick, and it didn't make it. And then we had another chick that got injured. It somehow broke its wing, and then the other chickens were attacking it.
Broke its wing really bad.
Yeah, we think it was trying to fly,
They were fighting
or something. We don't know in the chicken tractor.
Yeah.
So we had 31 chicks. We lost one that was sickly, so that left us 30. Then we had one that injured itself. It injured its wing, and the other chicks were attacking it. So we went ahead and butchered it early because it wasn't going to make it. And that was about 2 weeks. At about 8 weeks, you processed that chicken.
Yeah.
So that left us 29. Now, out of the 29, we had one chick that just would not grow. He or she, I think it's a hen.
It's a hen.
Was, I'm gonna guess, maybe 2 pounds.
And it didn't compete well. There was a lot of competition over the food.
It ate.
It was
and
just
drank,
it was just a runt.
So we left one chicken with it, one of the smallest hen that we could find, and that one, and we did not butcher 2 of them. So that left 27 that we butchered of our chickens. Now his mom also raised chickens, and she had 23. So altogether we butchered 50, correct?
Yeah, 50.
She had 23 and we had 27. We still have 2 more. We're growing the one out, and it's doing great now.
They're growing now.
It's gaining weight like crazy now. So altogether we did 50 chickens on our butchering day.
So we made a list of the pros and cons because this is our first time doing it, and we want to try and give you all some insight or some information on how we felt about whether or not this is worth doing, whether or not this is something that you might want to do, and we're just kind of giving you a heads up and saying, is this worth doing?
Is it doable for you guys?
Is it doable? Yeah. So we don't have a big farm. We don't have acreage. We have like 0.75 of an acre, and we did this in our backyard with a tractor. So we have I'm going to do the list of pros here. So some of the things that we thought were great about doing this is we had was the amount, after it was all over with, the amount of the meat that we got was great. I think it was somewhere between, it was over 130 pounds, so somewhere between 130 and 150 pounds of meat that we got to sustain our family. And with that 130 pounds of meat, we are gonna, our family size will be able to handle that amount of meat for probably, it'll last us probably about 4 months. For your family, it might be different. You may not need, all that's up to you. But for us, this is a 4 months worth of chicken that we don't have to worry about. So we don't have to worry about food shortages when it comes to chicken for 4 months at least. And that's great for us. That gives us some, we have assurances that, we have at least this amount of food. And it's not something we're going to be stressing about, like we have to run to the store and pay, ridiculous amounts of money over this period of time for chicken. So that's another really good positive. One of the best things about this is the way the meat tastes. I don't know if you've ever had chicken that has a weird texture or a weird taste, like a chemical taste to it. We've gotten wings from Costco before, and they're great, and then sometimes we get them and I don't know what's wrong with it. It tastes like I don't know if it's the brine that they're using, if it's a chemical that they put in there, some kind of preservative. I can taste it. And
I can too.
I'm not a fan of it. It ruins my meal when I have a weird chemical taste in the meat. It also ruins my meal when there's a weird texture, like
rubbery.
the chewy feeling. Also, when we were preparing this chicken, usually when we get chicken from the store, it's kind of slimy. It has like a slimy coating on it. None of that. This was a dry, like it was just a
water texture.
Yeah, it was great. But the taste of the meat was so much better. It was it's a high quality meat. It is. We know how it was raised. We know what it was fed, and it gives us a lot of it gives us a lot of assurances that, hey, we're eating a good, healthy, great tasting product that we grew ourselves. And there's a lot of self-satisfaction in that. Like we're proud of it, and it's something that we've done, and we gained a ton of knowledge from doing this. It's something that we know how to do now. We have neighbors that were very interested. That the other people in our area that we know, who were just like, they were surprised we were doing it. They're like, why are you doing this? we got a lot of knowledge from it. I mean, we learned how to process a chicken. We learned what we needed to do. And some of it's most people who process chicken, it's just common knowledge to them. But for people like us who's never done it before, it was a lot to take in, and it was a lot of things, little tricks that you can do to make the meat better, or how you get the feathers out. Stuff that you don't normally think about. We know how to do that now, and we gained a lot of information from it, and we're glad we know how to do that. Another great thing about these chickens is their Cornish cross only took 10 weeks to get up to about a 9-pound bird, which that's a really big bird in a short period of time. And it's a lot of meat for a short period of time. So it didn't take us very long at all to grow a good chunk of meat in our backyard, good quality meat, and it was only 10 weeks. So this is just 2.5 months. We're able to have a good 4 months worth of meat for our family. So that's probably one of the main reasons why we chose chickens. And plus, we live in a neighborhood. It was possible to do chickens, but we were able to get a lot of meat in a short period of time. So that was a great pro to this. That was probably the main reason why we chose to do it, and we stuck through it. So our freezer's full. We had great quality meat. It didn't take us very long to get it. We got all kinds of knowledge from it. So these are all some great pros to doing this. These are things that that you should be thinking about if you're wanting to grow your own chickens in your backyard, or on your small little farm, or even on a bigger farm. You want to go through these pros and cons before you make that big decision.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the cons. There is some cons to it, and it's things that you kind of have to weigh to make sure that it's worth it for you guys. Number one is storage. You have to have freezer space. You have somewhere to put the meat after you process it. We have freezers, but we didn't have enough freezer space. So luckily, we have a freezer that was my grandmother's, and it was mostly empty, and so we put all of our chicken there. So we did have a place to put that overflow of meat.
And it's not very far away either.
Yeah,
so.
It's like a half a mile from our house. So that works for us. But if you don't have that, you need to have a plan of where you're going to put the meat. Probably one of the biggest cons for us is there's two big cons. The first one is all of the preparation and work that you need to get set up for the chickens. So we had to build a chicken tractor. That's work. It's not hard, but it's work, and there's a cost to that. It was about, what, $100?
It was a little more than $100.
To build the chicken tractor.
$135.
We have a video on that. If you don't know, this chicken tractor did great in our backyard. I mean, and we have a really good size yard, but it worked great. We could turn it in our yard, and it fit really good. And it was big enough for 30 of the Cornish cross chicken. The second big, so you have the setup cost of the tractor, getting the feeders, getting your food. You have to have a brooder. There's a lot of things that you have to have planned out ahead of time just to get the chickens going. And then you have to think about, when you're getting ready to butcher them, you need something to scald them in. You need kill cones.
We purchased the turkey fryer, and I have a video where I made some station to have kill cones mounted.
Yes. Now we are actually in the process of building our own plucker, but we didn't have it done in time, so we bartered. I bartered. Yeah. And it worked out really good. So someone let us use their plucker, and that's the plucker that we're using in this video. So there's a lot of things that you have to have in place, and that is really just organizing, getting it together. We looked at it like the cost of buying a lot of this stuff is going to pay for itself over time. It's something that we're going to use this tractor every time. We're going to use those kill cones again. Even though I got a really great deal on a turkey fryer that we used as a scalder, I got it for $29 or $28, brand new, and it's an $85 fryer. But we still had to buy that. But we're going to use that every time. It's going to pay for itself. That's how we kind of looked at it. Is that those things are going to pay for themselves in the long run. Another con was the work of feeding them, cleaning up after them. Even when they're chicks, if they stink, they have to have the bedding changed.
They stink really bad.
Yeah, the smell has its own con on this list. But you know, just the constant work. You have to check on them, even when they're grown. You know, I had to get up early. He got up, you know, at 5 a.m. would feed them. I would feed them at 8 a.m. Sometimes I would feed them again because we fermented our food. It's hard to leave a lot. You can't just put a bucket of food out there like you can dry food. We fermented the food so that it would, it stretches the food, the quantity that they eat. They don't eat as much. And two, it unlocks it, like it opens up the nutrients in the food so that they get more of the nutrients in their, you know, in their bodies.
We had to weigh the time versus the cost of the feed.
Yeah.
And fermenting the food was more work because you had to feed them more often.
And it's kind of yucky because it's like wet dog food.
Yeah, it's wet.
Yeah. So feeding several times a day, that is something that you need to take into consideration. If you have a work schedule, like we both work, it is a task when you both work. And then as soon as you get home, like when he would get home, he would feed them, and then we would feed them again one more time after dinner time. So there's a lot of work in it. You know, we're the dedicated type. We're gonna do this.
Yeah. I think the schedule for them would be like 12 hours of food and then 12 hours with no food. Yeah. That schedule didn't really work for us because we were using the fermented food, and no matter how much food we put in there, within a few minutes it was gone. We could put a gallon of wet fermented food in there, and within 10-15 minutes it was gone. So we had to constantly keep replenishing it. Now
we fed 2 gallons at a time.
In the long run, we were saving money on the feed, but it was just a constant, you know, refilling of the amount of food we had. And you could probably come up with a system.
We could
yourself.
probably reevaluate that. Yeah, and maybe come up with a different way of feeding them. Because fermented food, you can't let it sit out. It's just a little bit different than just
the regular feeders don't really work well with the fermented food. I probably could make like a trough or something like that, and it would work a whole lot better for a longer period of time.
Yep. So the next con is smell. Yeah. So when they're chicks and they're in a brooder, we had them in our garage. They smell. They just do. They smell. It's 30 chicks. It's a whole bunch of chicks at once, and they smell. We couldn't wait to get them out of the garage and get them out in the chicken tractor. When they're in the chicken tractor, we had maybe 3 or 4 days of them not stinking really bad, and they just start growing so fast that they stank in the yard. Like the wind would blow in from their tractor and they smelled. And we moved the tractor every day. They had fresh grass every single day. They still stank. That is just a huge con. If we had a little yard or our neighbors were real close to us, I'm sure they wouldn't have appreciated the smell of the chickens. But you know, we have, you know, we're spaced out pretty good here, and that really wasn't an issue. But I just want you guys to know they smell.
Yeah, if you have a bigger yard, it's not that big of an issue, but we're right about that place where we are outside a lot. So if you're outside with your family, you're gonna you're gonna be in the middle of some stink.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it if I was gonna have a birthday party or any kind of thing like that. You just need to know they smell. Another con that I have on here is the yard, because you're moving that tractor every day. It is poop that's left behind. Poop and food, and not really feathers or anything like that. It's just, it kind of kills the yard out, and you know, in a rectangle. And we move it, and by the time, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 days after we move it, that grass starts to grow back. But there are some places that are just heavier than others, and it's like matted poop in the yard. I'm not worried about the yard. The yard will come back. It's going to fertilize it. It'll be fine. But there is a period of time, I would say a couple months, where you have to put up with that. Don't be running barefooted in your yard. Don't let your kids run barefoot through that. It's just gross.
And if you have a bigger yard or more land,
yeah, it wouldn't
a
be
lot
as
of
big
a
an
lot of
issue.
these aren't even going to apply to you as a con because it's not an
Right.
issue.
Right. Another con I had was the space to raise them. You know, like he said, if you have a big place and you have acreage, that's not a big deal. But for us, you know, we have both of our gardens back there, our fruit trees, our fruit bushes, they're all back there too. The kids' playground is back there. So, you know, it's only maybe 6-8 weeks. How long were they outside? 6 or 7 weeks they were actually outside. that we kind of have to put up with that, and it's in the springtime. But it is something to consider. You know, it's space being used up in your yard for that amount of time. Another con is the cost of feed. Now, we did, of course, the meat bird crumbles, and we fermented. It was $18.99 a bag.
And when we started out, the feed went up so quick.
When we started, it was $17.99 a bag, and then it went up to $22.99.
I think the last bag
the last
I bought,
bag we got was $22.99. Normally, the normal price is, this year anyways, is $18.99. We got it from Rural King, and then that is the feed that we fermented, and we do know that saved us money. It really stretched that food for us. I would say a good 25%.
I'd say maybe even more.
Maybe more.
And you do your when they're chicks, they don't eat as much. But I think by the time they were processing, it was like about 250 pounds, so 100 pounds of feed a week
for 30 birds.
Chicks, for 30 birds.
Yeah.
So that was that, and that was only like the last 2 weeks that they
were eating that much. Yeah.
How many bags did we use total?
I think total there was one of the starter chick, and then 11 bags of actual feed. So I had estimated a total of 10 bags of feed plus one starter bag. And so we went over one. It may be 12. I need to look at the receipts. It could have been 12 bags total, because the last 2 weeks they ate an extra bag a week than what I was budgeting for. So I think it was a total of 12 bags plus the starter chick feed. So 13 bags altogether, because that starter chick feed was the same price as the meat bird crumbles. It was $18.99 a bag for a 50-pound bag. Now we have found some. Next time we might do things differently. We might go to a local mill and look into getting some bulk feed. I
think you can save some money.
You can save some money there
if you get it bulk. You know, if you get enough all at one time for your chicken, and that all is about space and stuff too with us. So we're
it
gonna
was
look
our
into
first
it.
time too.
Yeah.
You know, we wanted to make sure that we knew what we were doing before we started moving into other areas of feed and things like that. The last con that I really have is processing and butchering the chickens. It's a weekend at planned thing. I mean, you have to plan it and know what, that you're going to do this. We spent most of our Saturday. We started about 10:30. We started setting up about 9:30, and then when his mom got here, it was about 10:30 by the time we were getting ice and things like that, to get the coolers ready and all that. And it was about 10:30. And what time did we finish?
Well, we stopped and had like
we did our chickens first. We took about an hour break, had lunch, took a break, and went back out, and it took us about 2 hours to do our chickens.
Yeah, we definitely got better at it.
We got better at it.
There was a learning. You know, we've done it with the stivers, and I helped the guy do his. So it was still, it's one of those things. It's like riding a bike.
And we had to teach his mom, his mom and stepdad how to do it, and kind of walk them through the process. So the second time we did our 27 chickens in 2 hours. So it wasn't too bad. Now there is cleanup after that. We get the birds on ice in the cooler.
There was a lot of cleanup.
Yeah, and then you have to clean everything up,
From feathers to blood to parts that you're not using.
Yeah, to the byproducts of the chickens, and so there's a lot of that stuff. And we were tired. We were really tired at the end. And so then the next day is you've had your chickens, on ice in a cooler overnight. Let them rest, let them cool off. A lot of people shrink bag the whole chicken. We did do some like that. We did about 8 of them like that.
Yeah.
I generally do not cook like that. We do like whole chickens, but on my day-to-day meals, I might make thighs or drumsticks, or I might make a meal like stir fry, where I use cut up chicken breast or chicken tacos or something like that. So I wanted everything processed out, and I know that is an extra step, but it was worth it to me. So I spent about 6 hours on Sunday cutting up, labeling everything, separating it. So I have chicken breasts in freezer bags, just like you would get it from the grocery and cut it up. I have wings separated out, and then I did put the thighs and the drumsticks together because we generally cook those together, that sort of thing. So everything
we parted
everything out. And that did take about 6 hours, and my hands were super sore on Monday. Between Saturday and Sunday, my hands were nicked up and just sore. But that's the last con. You know, it was a weekend. You know, and it really, Saturday wasn't that bad.
No.
Parting out the chickens was a little bit more mundane. And
Yeah, I wasn't able to help you as much as I wanted to on that. So I think, you know, if I was, because I didn't, you know.
It's a learning process.
Yeah, I wasn't real familiar on parting out the chicken. Yeah. But I started, you know, it's not hard once you start to figure it out. But there were certain parts of it, like cutting the chicken breast off was just, I'm not good at that. So I left that to her. I will say there is probably one more kind of con. It's kind of up to you. Is the price of growing the chicken versus the price of just going to the store and buying it. I had a lot of people tell me, like, why don't you just go buy a bunch of, you know,
spend the money
you
spent on
and just
all
buy
the stuff
chicken.
And buy chicken.
Well, we lose all of the pros we got out of this, really, is what it was, you know, the quality and everything else. But if you ask the question, is it cheaper to go buy chicken at the store than to do all this work? And if you break it down, it probably is a little bit cheaper just to buy at the store. But that doesn't mean that this isn't something that for us, it was worth it.
Yeah, and you can't really compare regular store chicken to what we have here. You would want to compare it to more of a really good organic, high quality chicken from the store. It's not a apples to apples, you know, comparison.
Right. Well, I was just saying, if you're wanting to save money by doing this, if you're buying
that's not the only reason to do it.
Yeah, that's not. You shouldn't be like, hey, we're going to grow chickens and we're going to save a bunch of money by growing our own chickens out. You're not going to. So yeah, would we do this again? Yes. We are definitely going to do this again. We're probably going to do this twice a year. We'll do it in the spring and in the fall while the weather is more optimal to do it. You know, you probably wouldn't work out very good in the winter, and the summer is so hot and you deal with other
chickens
stuff.
Can't handle the heat either.
Yeah, they grow so fast, and it's just going to be stressful, either of those. So we will probably be doing this twice a year and getting as much meat out of it for, you know, as much as we can out of it. So definitely going to be doing it in the spring and fall. And we'll probably stick with the Cornish cross. We're still debating on the Cornish cross. We did like how fast they were, but there were some things about them we didn't like. They were pretty aggressive. They were pretty aggressive. Yeah. They're little dinosaurs.
Don't trip and fall. Don't get stuck in that tractor because they might eat you.
Yeah, they're very aggressive.
So I hope that our experience has helped you guys to kind of see what the process is. Can it be done on a small scale? Like, you know, like I said, we're in a neighborhood. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. So that's kind of our philosophy about all of it. And this is, you know, our honest view and opinions about all of it. There is some gross stuff, but for us, the pros outweigh the cons. Yeah. For us personally.
The quality of the meat, the taste of the meat, it's all worth it to us. So you have to decide that for yourself. Is it worth it? If you ask our opinion, it's worth it.
Yep. So if you guys liked this video, if it's helped you, give you an idea, you know, what is this like? Why are these people doing this? Any of those reasons. You know, hit the like button for us, share, subscribe. We would really appreciate it. It helps us out so much. It helps us to know if you're benefiting from this information, if we're helping you guys. So we would really appreciate it. It would really help us. So,
yeah, it helps encourage us to make more videos.
Yeah, it does. So hope you guys have a great week. We appreciate you guys.
God bless you guys. See you on the next video.